The gameplay of Sword of Mana is an expanded and modified version of the gameplay of the action role-playing game Final Fantasy Adventure, with elements added from later games in the Mana series. Like previous games in the series, Sword of Mana displays a top-down perspective in which the player characters navigate the terrain and fight off hostile creatures. Unlike the original game, the terrain is in color, is not composed of square tiles, and the player is not restricted to moving only in the cardinal directions. At the beginning of the game, the player chooses to follow the story of either the unnamed hero or heroine and controls them thereafter. The player is often joined by either the unchosen protagonist or by temporary companions, and at any point during battles can choose to take direct control of the other party member instead of their chosen character. The non-selected character is controlled via artificial intelligence. Unlike prior games in the series, Sword of Mana does not have a direct multiplayer component. Instead, players can connect their Game Boy Advances together via a link cable to give their characters powerful attacks to be used at a later time, known as the Amigo system. The original game featured no multiplayer capabilities. The two main characters have different capabilities. Both are capable of using weapons and magic, but the hero is stronger with melee weapons, and the heroine is stronger with ranged magical attacks. Weapons have three attributes: slash, jab, and bash, and different attributes cause more or less damage to different enemies. Magical spells can cause damage or defend the protagonists, and are affected by the weapon the character is holding. Combat takes place in real time. Located at the bottom of the screen is an overdrive gauge that increases by 1 point at each hit given to an enemy. When that gauge is full, the player can release a powerful attack that will deplete the gauge completely if the attack lands. Upon collecting enough experience points in battle, each character increases in level and improves in areas such as strength and evasion. The player can rest in towns, where they can regain hit points or purchase restorative items and equipment. Options such as changing equipment, casting spells, or checking status are performed by cycling through the game's ring commands, a circular menu which hovers over the currently controlled party member. The ring command menu, which lets the player pause the game in combat to select different weapons, spells, and items, was not present in the original game, but was present in the sequel's Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana. A version of the day and night system introduced in Trials of Mana was added to the game, whereby some enemies are only present at different times of day, which changes whenever the player enters a new area. Much like Legend of Mana, players can forge weapons and plant produce in an orchard in the game's hothouse feature. Sword of Mana sold over 277,000 copies in Japan in 2003. It received positive reviews from critics. The game's presentation was praised, especially its graphics. Brad Shoemaker of GameSpot praised the lush, colorful backgrounds and animation quality, which was seconded by the reviewer for GamePro. Game Informer's Justin Leeper also felt that the graphics were beautiful, and Shane Bettenhausen of Electronic Gaming Monthly said it was one of the most stunning games on the GBA. Kevin Gifford of OneUp.com also praised the graphics in relation to other Game Boy Advance games, while Daryl Vassar of GameSpy said that it would have been the best-looking Game Boy Advance game if were not for what he felt was poor animation quality. Reaction to the music was more mixed. While the reviews for Game Informer and GamePro praised it, Shoemaker of GameSpot termed the music mostly bland, and Craig Harris of IGN and GameSpy's Vassar said it was nice, but repetitive. Reviewers also noted technical problems with the presentation. Both the GameSpot and IGN reviews noted graphical glitches in the game as marring the presentation. The game's plot was widely dismissed. IGN Harris termed it a little on the basic side and borderline silly, which OneUp.com's Gifford amended to just silly, with needless long dialogue. Vassar of GameSpy felt that the added dialogue simply unjustly inflated a simple story. Shoemaker of GameSpot called it quaintly simplistic, while the Electronic Gaming Monthly review said it was one of the biggest problems with the game. Elements of the gameplay were also poorly received. The computer-controlled companion was almost universally derided. Bettenhausen of Electronic Gaming Monthly said they were nearly useless, as did Gifford of OneUp.com. Shoemaker of GameSpot called them just plain dumb, and IGN Harris said it was the absolute pits and definitely the weakest aspect of the game. The GamePro, GameSpot, and GameSpy reviews found issues with the combat mechanics, and the GameSpot and IGN reviewers felt the game was too easy. 1UP.com's Gifford felt that the boss battles were too easy, and that the weapon switching system was needlessly complicated. IGN Harris and Game Informer's Leaper found the day/night system to be odd and unnecessary, and Harris additionally felt that the multiplayer system was underwhelming. Shoemaker of GameSpot concluded that the game was pretty good and recommended it for fans of the genre, while Leaper of Game Informer and Bettenhausen of Electronic Gaming Monthly said that it was decent and worth a look for fans of the series. The Japanese magazine Famitsu said that it was a good update to Final Fantasy Adventure without innovating the gameplay much beyond the original game.